Hey everybody, World War Guy here today, and yes, I am recording. It's been a while. It's nice to see you again. And for this video, I thought it'd be a great idea to show off some books that I highly recommend for anyone who's interested in any sort of military history. Now, I have a lot of books to show, and I really couldn't condense it any more than I already have, so this is going to be a bit of a quick review on each book. It's not going to go into too much depth, but all of them are really good, and I really recommend them, so let's begin. First one here is one that I'm currently reading, but I'm almost done with. It's King Leopold's Ghost, and it is a in-depth history of the Congo when it was under King Leopold's personal rule before it was transitioned to the Belgian government. Now, this one focuses a lot on the individuals who are important in this history. King Leopold, Henry Morton Stanley, and many other individuals. It talks about how King Leopold acquired the Congo. It talks about how the Congo ended up becoming a Belgian colony rather than King Leopold's personal backyard. And it focuses a lot on the atrocities that happened in the Congo. And overall, it's a very good insight on this relatively unknown genocide, where about 10 million Congolese died during just King Leopold's rule over it. Definitely go pick this up if you're interested in any sort of colonial Africa. Now, staying on the topic of genocides, we're going to look at Nanjing Massacre, the Nanjing Massacre, otherwise known as the Rape of Nanking. This book is brutal. Honestly, of all the history books I've read, this one is probably the most gruesome one that I've seen because it does not shy away from the horrors of the Nanjing Massacre or the Rape of Nanking, however you call it. Now, this one, the author states 2 or 3 times in the book that he is a journalist and not a historian, but he very much takes this approach as a historian. He uses a lot of historical information, historical data, primary sources, and then during this book, he actually travels what the Japanese army traveled when they arrived to Nanjing. So he follows the same path as them. The only difference is he's doing this about 40, 50 years later. During his trip, during his travel, you could say, he interviews many people who witnessed the Japanese invasion, the Japanese massacre of the Chinese civilians, whether they were men, women, children. Well, most of them were children at the time and then grew up to when he interviews them. And they all give their firsthand testimonies of what they witnessed, what they experienced, and he focuses on not only the civilian loss of life, but also the military loss of life, as in the Chinese soldiers. If you want to know more about this event, this book is very, very good in the sense that there's a lot of information, and it just shows how brutal the Japanese were to the Chinese population, especially in Nanjing and the area surrounding it. If you're anything like me, you love to learn about Belgian history, especially in the Second World War, and this book is perfect for that. Belgium in the Second World War. Now, this book encompasses all of Belgium from 1940 to 1945, and it speaks mostly about the resistance or the political issues in Belgium during German rule. Now, it does focus a decent amount on the military aspect. It talks about the German invasion of Belgium and certain events from the Belgian military. But as Belgium only fought for 18 days, there's not as much history as you could write compared to German history of World War II. Nonetheless, this one focuses a lot on the resistance, the politics, the collaboration, the Belgian military, and so on. So if you're really interested in Belgium during World War II, this is a very, very good start. The Chaco War from 1932 to 1935. This book focuses on the Chaco War, which was fought between Bolivia and Paraguay in the Chaco Desert region. This book is relatively small, and it focuses mainly on the main battles and just gives you a raw, unedited version of what happened in the battle. It does talk about prior to the war, what developed the war, how the countries were organized, and so on. But this is a good in-depth information of the actual war itself. One thing that I love about this are the immense amount of photos. In this little book, there are plenty of photos. It even shows the different Paraguayan and Bolivian regiments, divisions, battalions by name and number. It has, again, many photos of Bolivian soldiers, Paraguayan soldiers, and even foreigners, white foreigners, who took part in the war as well. So if you're interested at all in Bolivian or Paraguayan military history, I highly recommend the Chaco War. Going back over to Europe, we have Eben-Emael. This book is about the German attack on the Fort Eben-Emael in Belgium, and it pretty much goes by an hour-by-hour count. It talks about the prior to the Battle of Fort Eben-Emael, as how the Germans were set up, how they're organized, how they were training, and so on. It talks about the Belgian situation at Fort Eben-Emael, as what the soldiers were doing, where they were, how they were experiencing the phony war. What I love about this book specifically is that it really goes pretty much hour by hour. It explains what the Germans were doing, which glider landed where on the fort, which group of German soldiers attacked which gun emplacement, which German soldier died, how the Belgians reacted. It really gives you an in-depth detail. Bookmark fell out. Gives you an in-depth detail of the entire attack on Fort Eben-Emael. Now, I think most of you guys who are viewing this video and have made it this far have read With the Old Breed by Eugene Sledge. And I won't go into too much detail because I'm more focused on this book. Is maybe lesser known piece of literature. China Marine. This is his experience in China post-World War II before he was sent back home and honorably discharged from the Marine Corps. Now, the reason why I put this book in the list is not because there's a lot of fighting, a lot of heroic battles or anything like that, but it's because, one, it's really well written. Eugene Sledge is a very good writer if you haven't read his other stuff. But it also just shows an interesting aspect of post-World War II for many service troops. It explains his time in China, his interaction with the Chinese locals, his time in the military, of how he was trying to sort of, I guess, readjust to a more civilized life. And it's a very small book. It's a relatively quick read, but I think it ties in nicely with the Old Breed. Once you read With the Old Breed, read this, and it really ties it in nicely. It kind of has a good ending to it, if you want to say, because you go from this horrible wartime experience to a more civilized experience in a completely foreign land. I mean, China, the guy from Alabama going to China, it's very interesting to see his perspective of it. And the last book for today, if you have watched so far up to here, thank you so much. But this one is The Last Stand of Fox Company. Now, this one actually takes place in the Korean War. Now, if any of you have known about the Chosin Reservoir, this is what this book takes place in. The Chosin Reservoir was this area in modern-day North Korea where the 1st Marine Division was pretty much entirely encircled by Chinese forces and had to make a fighting retreat back to modern-day South Korea. Now, this book focuses specifically on Fox Company, about 246 Marines who were attacked by a much larger Chinese force. And the way this book is written, it feels like you're right there with the Marines in their foxholes, their freezing foxholes, and it is very hard to put down. Some books, they can kind of drag on. You kind of have to reread some paragraphs to remember where you're at. But this one, it almost felt like I was watching a movie, but all in my head. This is definitely one of those books that once you start reading, you can really imagine what the Marines were experiencing in this conflict. And of course, it is a very good example of what just a small group of Marines had to endure during the Chinese invasion at the Chosin Reservoir, or the Chinese attack at the Chosin Reservoir. So I highly recommend this book if you're interested in the Korean War, if you're interested in Marine Corps history, or if you're interested in the Chinese Reservoir specifically. All right, so those are all the books that I highly recommend you read. There are plenty of other books that I recommend you read, but these were probably the best ones that I've read that I really think everyone should take a minute to look at. Titles of the books along with the authors, I'll put in the description, so just scroll down there and read them. I'll put them in the order in the video. So the last one with the Korean War, that will be the last on the list. So, different kind of video as we have previously seen, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it. If you did, please write a comment, leave a like, share, and subscribe. But otherwise, you guys have a great day.